Hi, this is Coach Dave. Welcome to the student videos for the week ending 1/27/19. Hope you enjoy them. Thank you. Have a great week. Here we have a golfer in a fairly odd setup. His hands are high like a single-plane golfer, but then he's standing straight up and down like a two-plane golfer. I'd like to see him get a little more tilt, maybe let his hands drop a little bit, or commit to the single-plane setup, a la Bryson DeChambeau or Mo Norman. We're kind of in between everything here. Let's go ahead and play the swing though in slow motion, and let's see what happens. Taking the club back with his lead arm under the club, that's good. He's in a pretty good position here, a little tight. Ends up on the plane, comes right back down the plane, and makes pretty good contact and a nice straight hit. I would suggest that he really work hard on emulating the Bryson DeChambeau swing. He wouldn't take it quite so far to the inside on the way back, but look at that position right there. He's got a pretty good position. He's loaded in, both feet are on the ground. He raises his right heel a little early for maximum power. He kept his heel on the ground and moved that right knee more towards the left knee, and didn't straighten the left knee. So both, actually, if you notice, both feet are up on his toes. He's going to have a little more consistency and more power. He was able to stay nicely into his plane of his spine. You can see still on that plane all the way through the swing. Actually a pretty good execution from a rather unorthodox beginning. Nice setup here. Notice the spine and the golf shaft are about 90 degrees, or almost dead on 90 degrees actually. We're going to go ahead and start the club back kind of slowly. We'll zoom in just a little bit, a little farther away than I need it to be. See right there, as he reaches the parallel point to the ground, the club shaft is right over his toes, pointing down the target line, and his head has stayed nice and still. I would like to see his left shoulder a little more under his chin, but he's in a pretty good position here, not bad. And he's going to continue up, right up onto the plane, right there, and then he stops. So he could get a little bit more wrist hinge, so the club got a little more parallel to the ground, but he's nicely in control at this point. Now he's going to continue on through the swing, drops the hands right back in on the plane again. Look at that, solidly on plane. Getting a nice extension on the arms, moving further away from his body, very classic two-plane setup. Right on through to impact. Feet are staying on the ground nicely, but you can see because he's pivoting his right foot that he hasn't really transferred any weight forward. He hasn't moved his lower body into the target, and that's why he's losing some power. What we'd like to see is that the rotation of the lower body pulls the right heel straight up, not around behind him. The red line is the power line. If you've seen a lot of my swing analysis, you know that I think that's an important line in our setup. That's the line that we need to get the lower body into and around to in order to have a good finish. It also tells us if we're moving off the line or swaying forward on the line, that we're not turning correctly around the lead hip or the trail hip, depending which direction we're going, of course. Let's go ahead and play this swing in slow motion. We see a little sway there. See how he's pulling off the power line? At this point right here, his butt still needs to be behind him. If it was behind him, it would be sticking against the red line. So we swayed off completely outside the trail foot. If I go straight up, you can see he's well past his trail foot. He's outside of it. He hasn't rotated. He's swayed. So it's called a swirn rather than a turn. And he's going to move back into the power line. Does a nice job there. Comes in pretty good. Kind of hangs back a little bit. And it's going to come into the impact zone. So his hands are not in front of the ball, they're right over the ball. A little bit of a scoop there. You can see that the left hand of the trail hand is under the golf club. As he continues on through, the club almost hits the ball twice. You can see that. That's because there's absolutely no rotation at all of the lower body, the left knee moving to the right knee at all, and no rotation of the club. Now he's rotating and he finishes good. Well, we got to get him to relax a little bit. Now this was really cold today, so that could be part of it. But if we can get him to relax, I think he'll do much better. A lot of golfers come to me with the issue of what they say is lifting their head. What I try to explain to them is the head is attached to the spine's attached to the hips, so chances are if the head's going up, the whole spine is moving. So what I did is I placed a blue line against her backside. When my grandfather was teaching me to golf, he had me swing my arms and the club with my butt up against the ball, bent over, so I could stay on the wall. So let's just go ahead and advance the swing in slow motion and see if she lifts her head or does she move something else. There goes the spine straight up. And look how the hips are moving away from the line. Now there she is at the top of her backswing. She stood almost completely straight up and down. As a matter of fact, if I drew a little green line in here on the zipper of her jacket, boy, that is straight up and down, isn't it? So she's got no spine tilt at all. We'll back up again to the setup position where she had at least a little tilt. See that? So she's coming up and out of the shot. Makes it really hard to find the fourth principle of the golf swing, which is hitting the bottom where you want to. And she comes, dives down, rotates through, misses the sweet spot, and on through to the finish. So for her, the first thing we want her to do is learn how to do the motion quietly, staying in place, keeping your spine tilt, keeping all your angles set, and learn the motion of the swing before we try to hit a golf ball. Here we have a golfer trying to do the single plane swing. I'm going to draw the green. I'll do it in red. I'll draw the red line right up through his arm. You can see that's a very nice single plane setup that he's got going on there. The thing I wouldn't recommend is the hovering of the club that far above the ground before the takeaway. So let's go ahead and advance the swing in slow motion. He's got a very fast swing, so even in slow motion, it's probably going to be pretty quick. He's taking the club pretty far to the inside. And then he's going to come straight down the plane, a good impact, and a good swing. I'm not going to change much here. We're going to let him use that unique little setup. What I like especially is that the motion is clear and balanced, and his feet are on the ground till well after impact. That's one of the keys to the single plane swing. Nicely done. Here we have a golfer trying to do the single plane swing. I'm going to draw the green. I'll do it in red. I'll draw the red line right up through his arm. You can see that's a very nice single plane setup that he's got going on there. The thing I wouldn't recommend is the hovering of the club that far above the ground before the takeaway. So let's go ahead and advance the swing in slow motion. He's got a very fast swing, so even in slow motion, it's probably going to be pretty quick. He's taking the club pretty far to the inside, and then he's going to come straight down the plane, a good impact, and a good swing. We're not going to change much here. We're going to let him use that unique little setup. What I like especially is that the motion is clear and balanced, and his feet are on the ground till well after impact. That's one of the keys to the single plane swing. Nicely done. This shows why we call the two-plane setup two planes. The club shaft is on the red plane and the arms are on the white plane, two distinct planes. In the single plane setup, they would be on one line. This is a very classic single plane setup. Let's draw another line into about the hip socket up to his ear. And let's see what happens here on this swing. I like the setup. He's a very tall golfer. It feels like his club's maybe a little short for him. But I think we're going to see that if he stays centered, he starts with the club on the ground, so we should be able to go back and find the ground. Again, principle number 4, find the ground. He's back at 8 speed. He's got a very smooth, easy takeaway. A little bit of above the line. So now you see that he's getting right there on the second plane, the arm plane. The other nice thing about this is that the trail elbow is on the red line, and his shoulders are almost parallel to the red line also. So he's done a really good job. Also notice that the hip line through the ear is still very well situated. This is a great takeaway. A little bit old-fashioned because he's got the left knee bent and the left heel off the ground, but we'll take it and play it. Let's see what happens as he starts down. Comes a little over the top. You can see that right there. The hand should drop between the white line and the red line. He's coming a little over the top. The club gets outside his hands. If I back it up a little bit, you see right in here where the club right now should be, let's do this in yellow. The should be line should be back that way with the club shaft. That way he knows he's dropping the head of the club in behind him. It's a natural way to be, and it would really work. But he makes a good contact, but he will get a little slice out of that. So we're going to work a little bit on getting him to drop that club head a little bit more behind him, but he's got a good setup, and obviously he's a pretty good golfer. Since DB is in yellow, we'll draw the lines in yellow there in the match. Let's watch. She's been working very, very hard on keeping her head still, and it still sneaks in sometimes and causes her quite a bit of aggravation and frustration. Like my grandfather said, don't get frustrated, get better. Let's watch what happens on the takeaway. There goes the head up, out of the circle. There she's on the plane line, very nicely done. Back down, dives back into the circle, right on through, catches the ball on the toe. And that's because she's coming across the ball. Let me back it up a little bit so you can see how far out on the toe she's catching it. You can see that the ball's quite a ways out on the toe, and that's because she's pulled her arms in. Believe it or not, we want our hands a little higher at impact. We really don't, in a two-plane swing, want to have our head back low again. It does lift a little bit, so we have room to get our hands away from our thighs and swing that club out away from our bodies. So we'll get her to try to reroute the club shaft a little more out that direction there, and I think she'll start catching the ball more solid. She's very athletic, very strong. She just gets herself a little bound up. We'll stick with the theme of using the same color lines as the shirt. Al, I think, has his knees bent a little too far. I'd like to see the knees about over the shoelaces. You can see he's quite a ways in front of the shoelaces. If he got his knees over the shoelaces, he would have his spine tilt a little more down, more towards 2 o'clock rather than straight up at 1 o'clock, maybe halfway in between. His butt would be out, and his pelvis would be canted down more towards the ball, which would make him swing a little freer. Let's go ahead and watch his swing in slow motion. Again, this is a two-plane swing, you can see that. Or two-plane setup. We don't know if it's a two-plane swing yet because we haven't watched him move. Starts it back on the one-plane line. Now he goes up. So now it is a two-plane swing because now he's on a second plane, but over the top. This part right here is the killer of most amateur golfers. The downswing needs to come down, not out. It's not an out swing. It's a down and around swing. He is clearing his hips out of the way very nicely. Look at that impact point. Notice where his hands are. They are where they belong, but I would like to see a little bit more clearance in the hips. He hasn't raised his head, but he has got his hands out. Then he pulls in because he didn't clear his hip. He wasn't able to swing out to right field, so he gets that little tail that he's kind of frustrated with on all of his shots. I think what we're going to get him to do is change his posture a little bit, just a little bit, and see if we can get him to swing a little bit more to the outside. Here we see Jenny in the classic one-plane setup, blue jeans, blue shirt. Oops, I didn't do that right. Let's start over again. Go back to 0. All right, so we're going to take a line right down his arm, right down through the club. That's the single plane forward press. Club's 8 or 9 inches behind the ball. Ball's just off his shoulder. You can see that. What he's going to do now is he's going to try to do a controlled wedge shot with very little motion and just a really nice smooth swing. No rotation of the arms. He just folds the trail arm. It's a miniature hinge. Keeps the head back, clicks the ball, and releases the club head and moves up to the finish. Now, from this position here, you can see that he's looking straight through the golf shaft at his target. That's a key setup finish for the single plane swing on the short game. Nicely done, Denny. Here we have a pretty new golfer. I just kind of let her set up however she wanted to get comfortable. We're all going to ask her to bend over a little bit more to try to get the spine a little closer to a 90-degree setup. You can see it's not very close to 90 degrees to the golf shaft. She's going to have to back away a little bit and get a little forward tilt. But let's go ahead and watch the swing in slow motion. It's very early on in the day. She's just getting a feel for swinging. One of the things I truly believe in golf is we have to learn the motion before we learn the hit. You all see golfers talk about how good their practice swing is. Yet when they go to hit the ball, they struggle. That's because they're changing from swinging the club to hitting. Now this looks like a fairly nice swing, doesn't it? And lo and behold, she makes great contact right on through. It would be hard looking at this video to think she was anything but an experienced golfer. She did a really nice job. Her swing's her own. We're going to let her keep that swing. We're just going to work on making sure that the motion gets ingrained and she stays comfortable. We've got a golfer here with a pretty good setup and a pretty good backswing. The issue is he has a tough time following through and getting the kind of power and impact that he'd like to generate. And I think we'll take a look at this. We'll see this very clearly when we play in slow motion, how he doesn't release the right arm down the target line at all. So we're going to watch the takeaway here. Nice takeaway, low and slow, just like we talked about. Notice how solid the lower body's staying. Bringing the club up. I can see a little more hinge there. Stop that. Go back just a hair. I'd like to see him get a hinge, at least to about in here somewhere. I think he would have a lot more power if he could do that. But we'll see. Maybe we'll have to live with where he's at now, just to be on the safe side. Well, let's go ahead now and follow the swing on through. It's coming in good, unwinding nicely, facing the ball. He's got a 90-degree lag from his left arm to the golf shaft. Then right here is where he jams himself up. Notice how the left elbow now is pointing outward or back behind him. The right arm is in a great position. He just needs to get contact with the upper body to his left bicep so that the elbow's down and he can rotate from the shoulder his left arm. What's going to happen is he's going to come through and notice that the club, his right hand is still stuck under the club, still stuck under the club. Then he rotates late. And look how tight he is there. Compared to the width he has here from his body to here, there's where he's losing all of his power and not able to release. And I do believe that's just a matter of keeping the upper left arm connected to the chest longer and letting the elbow point to the ground. Every once in a while we find a golfer that lifts the club up off the ground, kind of like you're trying to drive a hatchet into the bottom of a tree. She's struggling a little bit, and I think this is her first lesson out of a package of 10, and I think she's going to see right away how the lifting is perhaps the issue that she needs to deal with. So we're going to draw this line in here. I'd like to see her bend over a little bit more. So we're going to take the club back really slowly and watch what happens there. And see, everything's going straight up. Shoulders haven't rotated at all. Now the club is just straight up in the air. Now she's got nowhere to go now. The only thing she can do now is slam that club into the ground. We need to get her a little flatter on the takeaway. You can see that the lead arm line is even inside the golf ball. It needs to be parallel to the white line. That's what I mean by lifting. There's no rotation of the lower body. The knees are locked. Very uncomfortable position, hard on the body. Look at the athleticism. She's got a great flex in her wrist. She's got a good club lag. Then she dives down, comes way over the top, chops down on the ball, digs a big chunk. I told her I'm going to give her some potatoes to plant in there. And the ball doesn't go very far at all, just a few feet. Now she's got all the power in the world. She's got the grace. She can do this. We're just going to flatten that swing out. Let's go ahead and watch this swing in slow motion. She's got a pretty good setup here. The spine tilt and the hands are about 90 degrees. Knees aren't overbent. If she straightened them up just a little bit, she'd get a little bit more cant in her pelvic area. We'd like to see the line of the shirt pointed a little bit more towards the golf ball. But it isn't bad. So let's watch the takeaway. Taking it back a little too far inside. See, when she's back here where the club is parallel to the ground, the hands should be out over the feet. She was pulling that club a little too far inside. We're going to continue on through. Stands up again. We've been working on that a lot. And then a little bit over the top. And now she's learning how to drop the club down inside and look at the difference. She gets a nice straight shot off. It's the up and down that caused it to not go very high because she's hitting it pretty low on the face. But she's in a lot better position than she was. She's doing a great job of learning how to reduce the amount of stand-up. Now we just got to get her to get rid of that completely. This posture's pretty good. Here's another one of our single plane swingers. He's trying to make the transition. Probably feels it'll be easier on his back, and I think he's probably right here. But let's see what goes on. 8th speed. He has a tendency to be really quick. But look at that takeaway. That's pretty much on the line. Now he's doing a little lifting there. Comes back down and a little over the top. pretty close. Now when you lift it, I think one of the things you'll notice in the lift, he's probably there about where the hand should be at setup. I should be able to see at setup, I should be able to see the lead arm. So I'm not sure how far off, I can't see his lead arm until about there. I'd like to see the lead arm completely in the setup position from the camera angle on that. And you can swing back under. Also notice that the trail elbow is a little bit pointed behind him. I'd like to see the upper arm parallel to the spine, which would bring the upper arm a little bit more down from where it is there. So we'll drop the upper arm down in front of the hip, which he does a pretty good job right there. Notice the club is laying off nicely. He throws it a little bit early. That's an indication that you're trying to move the wrong end of the club. You're throwing the head of the club rather than just pulling the handle towards the target. It's a good impact and a nice balanced finish. Nice done. This golfer has a tendency to aim his shoulders, which is the path the club is going to go on, way far to the right. You can't even see his lead shoulder at all because it's blocked, it's opened up so much. His target, believe it or not, was right out here. Now, if we watch, when he takes the club back, you'll see how long before the shoulders actually get parallel to that target line. He's opened it even more. Watch this. If you look, see how the arms, now they're even more open before he kicks the club back? There, now, right about there, he's parallel to the target line. So what's going to happen now is he's going to come up, he's going to go across that ball. I haven't seen this swing yet, so I'll make a fool out of me. The club's wide open, he's going to cut across it, and it goes the big slice. He's going off to the right. So if we can just get him to square the path up. Remember the elements of the golf swing that we have to take care of. We have to take care of the face of the club, that's the direction the ball's going to start. The pace that we're moving the club, that's how much energy we're putting in. The path of the club, that tells you which way the ball is going to curve, if it curves at all. We'd rather have a nice straight shot. And then of course the bottom. He did pretty good on all of those except the path. So we'll draw the plane in now. We'll play it back in 8th speed. Well, let's do it in a quarter speed. Let's go fast. Let's see if he swings above the green line on the way back to the golf ball. Nice takeaway. There's the shoulder square. Not bad, but there's the slice off to the right a little bit. Actually about 25 yards. He either slices it or he pulls it. So we've really made some differences early on in the lesson on this day. He was really going